BD here, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are talking about Predator Badlands. Everybody's talking about this movie this weekend. I have thoughts on it, and I have a theory about where this is all going. I'm a little bit informed because I talked to Dan Trachtenberg for 30 minutes on a director debrief episode, which is releasing right here on the channel on Monday. It's 30 minutes long. It's full spoilers for the movie. It's talking about some of the teases we've already seen about what's next in other projects he's done in this franchise. And I can't release it until Monday. And I can't really talk about what's in that interview also until Monday. But this is my spoiler-filled thoughts just based on some of the stuff I've learned, I've observed, I've noticed in this, and my honest thoughts, because everybody seems to be sharing their thoughts on Predator Badlands, and my goal is to have a Saturday video every week, and what better time to do it than right now? So I've seen the movie twice. First time was on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m., the morning after Halloween night, in a regular kind of small screen theater, and I still really liked the movie. Then I saw it again at the premiere. I got to go to the premiere in Hollywood at the Chinese Theater, saw it in IMAX, and obviously there's no better environment to watch a movie than at the premiere, an IMAX screening, and I thought that was just really cool, and I liked the movie even more that time, which should come as no surprise. This was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I saw the footage at Comic-Con, those first 15 minutes, where they make Deck sympathetic, and right then I was in. I'm not a person with a huge affinity for Predator movies. So let's start right there. I see a lot of people online arguing with each other on Twitter and Threads, as people do on those platforms anyway. But a lot of people are frustrated at the thought of humanizing one of the Yautja characters. People go to Predator movies typically to watch bloodbaths. They see human characters try to survive the Predators, try to survive an encounter with the Yautja characters. Ultimately, someone does, maybe, but a lot of people die. This is not that movie. This is one of the Yautja characters that is trained to live the same way as all those other Predator characters in the other Predator movies, but he's different from them because he was just born differently. And I thought the first 15 minutes of this movie solidify why this works without betraying that lore. And again, I don't have a huge affinity for Predator movies, so if you have a criticism of it, that's valid. As long as you're being critical and backing it in reason and logic and, things you prefer or don't like, I got no problem with that. But I see a lot of people just yelling about this movie. I see some really stupid takes that I'm not even going to repeat. Valid criticism is always welcome. Just because the majority of people liking the movie are speaking on how much they like it doesn't mean that if you don't like something, you're wrong. I just think that there's some takes from people who aren't even watching the movie who are saying they hate it and it's stupid or whatever, and worse, before even seeing it. I think Dan Trachtenberg getting the keys to the Predator franchise kingdom is one of the best things to happen to this. What he did with Prey was fantastic. What he did with Killer of Killers is great. What he's done with Predator Badlands was really, really good. And there's no denying Predator Badlands has kind of mainstreamified the Predator franchise, I think. This isn't a movie that everybody's going to go watch. That character's still pretty freaky looking, dude. Those little mandibles on his face. He's killing a lot of, yes, he's the protagonist of this movie, but I still don't think this is something that kids are going to be like, oh my God, I love that character. He looks so warm and fuzzy. If I was 13 years old, I'd probably be afraid of this character. And the threats he's facing. Yes, it's PG-13, but that's not because this is a kid's movie. That's because there's no blood or human violence. That's sort of a loophole that a lot of movies find when getting MPAA ratings, and you always want to aim for PG-13 instead of R because you might sell more tickets. That's obvious. Sure, they could have cursed more and made it R-rated, I guess. But I didn't need violence. I saw the same actor who played a Weyland-Yutani synth get wrecked by Deck and Thea how many times? In ways that would kill a human. So I thought it worked. I think that my number one complaint about this movie is that the spoilers right now, from this point forward, spoilers, that the Kalisk child was kind of a little too silly sometimes, if I'm being critical. Sometimes the Groot-inspired humor there was a tonal mismatch for the Predator franchise, sure, but this whole movie is different from the Predator franchise, so that's just me being critical. Thea, Elle Fanning's work as Thea, as a constant shot of life in the movie with constant energy, brings a sense of levity, a sense of energy, and keeps the pace going really, really well. And Deck is a really fascinating character immediately. How do you not root for this guy? clearly born deficient by comparison to the other Yautja characters around him. His father wants him killed. His brother has to think about doing it, saves him, dies, and then he gets sent off on a mission where he's wanting to prove himself, but also been told, you're not like us, we're not going to accept you no matter what you do. Maybe they would have accepted him if he came back with the Callisk head, which was seemingly an impossibility until they froze it and exploded it from the inside, but he maybe couldn't have done that. I don't know if he could have done that. I guess Tessa did use his technology to do it, but it proved to be something all of Weyland-Yutani couldn't do. No Predator before Deck could do. So, I don't know. I really like what we did here. And I think it was nice to have a movie like this that had so much lore in terms of going to Genna and seeing all these other creatures. The trees are a threat. There's like a dragon flying by. There's paralyzing needles. And then Deck uses the environment. It's player versus environment before it's player versus player. I really, really dug that element of this movie, the world building, the tech building, all that stuff. I think Dan Trachtenberg did a really good job building this out. And I think the scene with his father at the end was really good too. The way that they used the dust of Quay's ship, of course it's Quay's ship, nice touch, to reveal him from the cloak was really nicely done. Kind of reminded me of that scene from Killers where they're on the roof and there's the shingles and you can see the steps and the red mist reveals the Predator there. I dug this movie quite a bit, and I think Dan is doing a really creative job of using the lore and using what these Predator movies have established and not betraying it. Maybe tonally, it might feel like a betrayal if you just love R-rated bloodbaths. I can understand, I guess. I'm not a person who loves those kind of movies, so this was really, I dug it quite a bit. Now, as for where it's going, I have thoughts, and this kind of requires you to have seen the first two Predator movies, Prey, Killer of Killers, and Predator Badlands, for it to make sense maybe. Mostly Killer of Killers, though. And that scene that got released at San Diego Comic-Con, they had an animated movie, Killer of Killers, for those of you who might not know. And it's got 3 different time periods, or 3 different stories with characters in different time periods that come together for a battle at the end. And the battle itself is not exactly dated on when it's set, but you see these sort of cryo chambers where the Yautja have kept and seemingly frozen pretty much anybody who's beaten them. There's a species of alien in there that they're afraid of, according to Predator lore. There is now also Amber Midthunder's Naru from Prey, and then the extended version, which was released at San Diego Comic-Con and added to the Hulu version of this movie. I paid like the extra $1 to my Disney Plus. It was $18.99. I made it $19.99, and I was able to watch Killer of Killers on my Disney Plus because I hadn't even watched it yet. I watched it to get ready for Badlands, and I'm glad I did because it is very good. But they added Arnold Schwarzenegger's Dutch and Danny Glover's Mike. They're frozen in there. They're seemingly the same age as they were in those movies from 40 years ago. So I'm curious if they'll be able to make a follow-up with those characters at that age in live action, or if it'll have to be animated as this credit scene teased. I would prefer live action because it'll get more attention. I think it'd be really cool to see Arnold and Danny back alongside Amber Midthunder, but what you can do in animation is basically limitless at this point, so I'm going to watch it either way. I just think a live action release of what could be this version of Predator Endgame could be pretty exciting. But I don't know. Dan is clearly thinking about that. I've already released the clip of him saying he's deciding on it. And he had a third idea after Prey. He said he had Prey, and then there was 3 ideas, which was Killer of Killers, Predator Badlands, and then a third idea. And he said that third idea is not something we've ever seen in the Predator franchise and also not something we've seen in sci-fi. Now, does that mean that's this big Predator crossover event thing that was teased in that Killer of Killers credit scene? I don't know. Maybe that's like the next thing that he's building towards, and there's another character or set of characters he wants to introduce. I've seen a lot of people talk about wanting to see Japanese-inspired stories and just all kinds of stuff, and you got a little bit of that in Killer of Killers. But I have a theory. This might be way off base. Deck's mother is now there. He has killed a major key Predator character, and everybody who defeats these Predators gets thrown into the cryo sleep chambers. Maybe Deck is headed there, And then we're going to see this Killer of Killers tournament where Deck has to team up with Naru, Dutch, and Mike to sort of escape that area. And it's so far in the future, I don't think anything from the Alien and Predator movies before it is really going to matter much. Maybe we'll see other familiar faces pop up from people who have survived Predator movies. But I feel like that could be where he's going. I think everybody's thinking, oh, Weyland-Yutani was in this movie. We're going to get Alien vs. Predator. Romulus was so good. It's put sort of the Alien franchise back on the map while Dan Trachtenberg is doing this great stuff with his side of the Predator franchise. I think there might be like a team up of sorts of all these characters, but there's also going to be an interesting sort of language barrier between them, and that's where Thea comes in, because she can hear everyone and then speak it back to a way that translates it for everybody. And the young Kalisk character, I don't know how he or she, again, I don't remember the gender of that character. The young blue monster regenerative thing, which also ties to Romulus, though, and Weyland-Yutani's efforts. We'll see. I think that could be an interesting theory, though. Seeing the survivors of Predator movies have to team up to take on the mother of Predator lore could be a big one. We'll see. Rather than just going straight to Alien vs. Predator, which it doesn't sound like Dan Trachtenberg wants to do, because he acknowledges Alien vs. Predator was sort of a marketing gimmick, much like Freddy vs. Jason was, because that was what was hot then. And it had a very thin story. Now, you could do Alien vs. Predator at some point, but you could also do all the Predator survivors vs. Predator in this franchise. That could be cool. We'll see. What do you guys think? Is my theory insane? Did you like Predator Badlands? Are you happy with Dan Trachtenberg's work so far? What's your favorite of the three? Prey, Killer of Killers, or Predator Badlands? Drop it in the comment section, and we'll see you on Phase 100 for the Infinity Saga rankings on Tuesday night. And Dan Trachtenberg's director debrief loaded with insights about Predator Badlands, how he shot some of those epic action scenes like Elle Fanning's Thea's like lower half and upper half versus a million synths, and all that kind of stuff is all in there, and some of the scenes that he redid after testing the movie, stuff like that. So I think it's going to be a really interesting director debrief, and director debrief is a series which you're going to see a lot more of on the channel going forward. That's definitely one of the goals. And hey, we got another Saturday video out there. Thank you for spending your time listening to me yap. Please subscribe to the channel and drop your thoughts on which movie is your favorite of Prey, Killer of Killers, and Predator Badlands in the comment section. See you in the next one.